Good afternoon, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Norma, Rosie, can y'all hear me out there? Can you hear me now? Good afternoon, everyone. Today is February 15th. This is a rescheduled a board meeting. It is now 5:02, and I'll be checking for at this time, we're bringing the meeting to order. Do we have a confirmation on the quorum?
Yes, we do.
We do have a quorum. All right, this time I'll have Dr. Samora lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and pledge to our Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, whether it reaches the deep, Texas, United States, and America, one nation. Thank you, Bill. At this time, we'll take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Do we have on number D, do we have a workshop or public hearings, Ms. Gilbert?
None at this time.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda item. I will remind the fellow board members, members of the board, if there are any questions on any of those items, now's the time to ask or to pull any items if necessary. Now, I would like to make a comment on items 3 and 4. I'm going to ask council, there's 4 of us here, I'm going to abstain on items 3 and 4. Can we still take a vote on that, council? On the consent items, I'd like to abstain, or should we pull those items out, items 3 and 4, because I have a conflict. Okay. So at this time, we'll pull out items 3 and 4, and we'll vote on those separately. The rest of the items, can I have a motion on to pass them on consent?
I motion to approve all the consent items minus 3 and 4.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I second.
We have a second by Dr. Samora. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All those against, motion passes. At this time, we'll move on to General Manager's report. Ms. Gilbert.
Yes, at this time we have the general manager's report for the board calendar. If you look at your packet, you see under items 1A, the monthly scheduled meetings. The change that has happened is the SRWA board meeting has been moved to the same date as the PB board meeting. And then we also have 3 upcoming holidays on February the 19th. We have President's Day, March 29th, Good Friday, and April 1st, Cesar Chavez Day. There's other events also noted on your calendar, and I'd like to ask the board members, are there any other questions at this time on calendar?
Any questions on the calendar that was just outlined by Ms. Gilbert? No questions? Ms. Gilbert?
For industry updates and PEB updates, we have a few items that are coming from the staff reports and presentations. I did attend the International Boundary Water Commission meeting, stakeholder meeting, and under item 4 of the staff reports, you'll have more information on drought. Moving on to the item number C, I wanted to go ahead and move quickly. We have the Employee Recognition Awards and video. We had an awards breakfast for them. We had the Employee of the Year, and staff is going to make a short presentation and videos and recognize and take pictures with the employees, and we want to recognize all of the individuals who were submitted and at this time. So, come on up.
Thank you.
We did a different approach in the past. Typically, the Employee of the Year was announced at the annual Christmas party, but this time we decided to do a bigger recognition. Very well attended. The employees, managers spoke about why they got, and these are short videos that was presented at that meeting.
So good evening, Chair, members of the board. I'm just going to go over a quick presentation. The actual department. What do we have ready? Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay, so BPUB has an employee recognition program, and we continue to be part of our culture. This program was established in the early 2000s, and the vision is pretty simple. We want to foster a culture of appreciation and recognition for our employees who exemplify our core values. We have several awards, including the Outstanding Employee of the Year Award, the Excellence Award, which we're going to focus on today, but we also have others, including the Shining Star Award, which is for individuals that do an excellent job on a specific project, Rising Star, which is for individuals that have upward mobility. They get recognized for their upward mobility in the organization. We have the Outstanding Performance by a Team Award for those individuals that have great teamwork and collaboration. Instant Awards, where we recognize individuals that are going above and beyond. And also the Service Awards that commemorate years of service. The best thing about this program, of course, is that employees get to recognize each other. They do not require approval of supervisors and above. If somebody sees that an employee, a fellow worker is doing a great job, they get to go ahead and nominate them. A little bit about the criteria for the Excellence Award, so you're aware of why it's such an important thing for us and for those that are receiving it, is that first of all, they do live by our core values. The core values for us include customer service and community partnership. We talk about employee satisfaction and collaboration, environmental stewardship, innovation and continuous improvement, open communication, and safety. One of the things that you will notice as you get to see the videos and get to see why they were nominated, you will notice that these individuals live their core values on a day-to-day basis. They constantly show initiative. They regularly demonstrate superior customer services. They enhance BPUB's image. They constantly demonstrate a positive attitude. And above all, they demonstrate leadership regardless of title. So as Ms. Gilbert had just mentioned, we're going to announce who they are. We're going to play a little bit of a video. We're going to once again wrap up with the Outstanding Employee of the Year. And then if you want to do a photo op with those that are present at the time, by all means, I'll let you know once we wrap it up, okay? So first and foremost, we're going to recognize Eli Alvarez, and allow me to play a short video.
I nominated Eli Alvarez for three main reasons. His performance during severe weather events, demonstrating a deep commitment to BPUB core values when performing double duties and managing and coordinating various projects, and demonstrating superior customer service when dealing with difficult situations.
That was Eli Alvarez. Next, we have Eddie Campirano Jr.
I nominated Eddie Campirano for his amazing customer service skills, his ability to deal with difficult situations, and assisting customers in the time of need. Members of PubCap, the BPUB board, members of the community, as well as other employees have talked about his amazing skills in dealing with customers and assisting others and always doing it with a smile.
Next, we have Cesare Gardner.
Ches Gardner has been an asset to the Safety and Security Operations Department. In the past 2 years that he's been part of this team, Ches has continuously looked for ways to make BPUB a safer, more secure space for all employees. Ches takes pride in being part of this department and organization, and he's shown initiative by researching and proposing solutions every day.
last but not least, we also have Ms. Norma Gomez.
I nominated Norma Gomez for the Excellence Award for her work on the Tenasca Equity Fund refund distribution project. She had to look at over 8.5 years of data by customer by month. The data was reviewed by external auditors and by the City of Brownsville, the City Commission, and the PUB Board. It was an extensive amount of work, far outside of her normal job duties, and she did an exceptional job reviewing all that data, analyzing it, and presenting it in a simple format.
So these 4 individuals are the recipients of the Excellence Award. And out of this group, our general manager and CEO gets to select who gets to be the Outstanding Employee of the Year, which is not an easy decision, as you can probably see. However, the recipient of the Outstanding Employee of the Year goes out to Mr. Eli Alvarez, okay? We do want to say a big thank you to executive management who supports the employee recognition program and getting it reinstated. When COVID hit, the COVID pandemic hit, we had to put a halt to it. Since last year, we were able to reinstitute it thanks to the big support of our executive management. So at this point, if we have anybody that would like to do a photo op with, this is the time that we invite you to do so.
Who is here?
All right, we're excited.
So we have the employees and their families, if they can come up.
I guess by default I'm in the front.
This one?
Mr. Chair, thank you so much, and that concludes the Employee Recognition Awards, and thank you all for allowing us to do this at this time.
Oh, thank you for including us, and I'm sure any of the board members have any comments about this great recognition.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. As it was highlighted, the culture of the organization is important, and I'm glad that you guys are highlighting, excellence and good performance and all of that. It's very important. So, congratulations again, and we'd like to see more next year.
Yes, thank you for bringing it back.
Okay.
Again, we appreciate participating with this great recognition award. All right, Ms. Gilbert, we'll move on. Is there anything on public comments?
No public comments.
Okay. No public comments. We'll move on to the items 3 and 4 that were pulled out of consent. Item 3, consideration and possible approval of a professional geotechnical engineering services contract for materials testing services with Terracon Consultants, Inc. for the downtown water and wastewater improvements. Do we have any comments or any questions, or do we have a motion on this item?
I just want to check, do we have a quorum if the chair can't vote on this? So we're good?
Okay. I'm on the record to abstain on this item.
Thank you.
And Maria, I don't even know if we need a presentation from Maria. This was a consent item.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had the information already, but any questions? I'll make a motion to approve item number 3.
We have a motion to approve. Second?
I'll second.
A second by the mayor. All those in favor say aye.
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 And for the record, I abstain on this item. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4. Consideration and possible approval of a professional archaeological construction monitoring services contract with Terracon Consultants, Inc. for the downtown water and wastewater improvements. Again, any questions or any comments from any of the board members on this item? I will be abstaining on it.
No questions. I'll motion to approve item number 4.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martinez, second by Dr. Samoda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes, and for the record, I abstain. Thank you, Ms. Liad.
Thank you.
Ms. Gilbert, we're moving on to staff reports.
Yes, at this time.
Presentations.
At this time, we move to staff reports and presentations to the board, and Monica Cavazos will be presenting, starting with the financial report and the other items A, B, and C.
Good afternoon, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
Monica Cavazos, Director of Finance. I'll be presenting the financial performance report as of December 31st, 2023. Again, this is the current format we are still using. We did have a finance committee meeting last week. The chair did ask that we present our proposed new format to you all individually, and so we've made some changes to that. We'll be presenting that to you. But in the meantime, we are still using the current format.
Thank you.
So looking at the far right column, we're looking at the year-to-date numbers. You see below line 5 that we had total operating revenues of $45,980,063. And then we back out our total operating expenses of $45,723,232, left us operating income of $256,831. We then, you see below line 18, we had our net non-operating expenses of $3,572,669, which left us income before capital contributions of a minus $3,315,838. We then add capital contributions of $813,436, gives us a change in net position of a minus $2,502,402. When added to the net position at the beginning of the year of $452,609,182, gives us a net position at the end of the period of $450,509,982. $106,780. Moving on to the next one, our flow of funds. I'll direct your attention to line 12. You see that we had adjusted gross revenues of $41,877,271. Again, this is the basis for the 10% transfer, the gross transfer to the city of Brownsville. We then have our total expenses, which leaves us with the balance available to surplus, looking at line 18 of $10,753,832. This is net of COB's usage. We then transfer to the COB, net of their usage, $2,402,268 in cash, which leaves us a balance available for transfers out on line 20 of $8,353,564. That balance covers our improvement fund for CIP funding and for CIP funding for the Resaca projects of $4,022,585. Our total transfers on line 26, which left us on line 28 a surplus balance of $4,330,979 year to date. Are there any questions on the financials?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
For line 18, can you explain what we're looking at here and why the difference in the two columns?
On the 18,
Yes.
the balance available
Yes.
to surplus
Yes.
of $10,753,832. So that's our adjusted gross revenues, less our O&M expenses and the non-operating expenses and our debt service obligations. So our total requirements, excluding fuel and SRWA, of $29,335,980, left us that balance available to surplus. From that balance, we then have to transfer to the city. So there's a 10% gross transfer. We back out their usage, which was $1,787,459.
No, okay, so just line 18, the difference in the two columns.
One column is the December activity, and the far right column is the year-to-date number.
Year to date, meaning?
Through December. That's October, November, December, the first quarter of the year.
So the column fiscal year 2024, that is several months, and
3 months.
And the column for December 2023 is 1 month. I don't understand.
Correct.
So 1 month versus several months.
Correct. Yes. So our fiscal year begins October 1st. So our year-to-date numbers is for the first 3 months of the year. The column on the left is just the activity during the month of December.
And why is that shown?
It just is how we've presented, just so you can see what the changes were in the month of December, what the activity was within December, and then what the year-to-date numbers are.
So then what I'm guessing, inferring, happened here is that other months, there were, it was a lot higher, the balance available to surplus, but specifically for December, there was a loss.
We had some unusual activity in December. We had that $7 million that was applied for the fuel sub-account, for the fuel adjustments and that. And then we had some lower revenues in December than in the previous months. So the first 2 months of the year were stronger, generated more surplus than the month of December did.
And this 10% calculation, it's done on a monthly basis?
We transfer the funds to the city quarterly. We do calculate it monthly.
So
we do on a
does that mean that in
monthly basis.
December there was no money transferred to the city because we were in the negative?
No, we do transfer $2 million. If you look at line 19 for the first quarter of the year, their cash transfer was $2,400,268. That was net of their usage. So that was the $4,187,727, which was the 10% of line 12. We backed out their usage of $1,787,459, shown on line 18, And that left them cash on line 19 of $2,400,000.
The 7 million,
Mhm.
the adjustment to fuel, that is just part of, that's an operating expense, right?
You'll see that on the previous schedule. That rate stabilization, the 7 million.
Okay. So even in months when there are more expenses than revenue, we are still giving out
The city is
10%.
entitled to 10% of the adjusted gross revenues, and so that is all of our operating revenues, less our fuel and our contributions to SRWA. So you'll see that calculation. They get 10%, that's the operating revenues off system sales, non-operating revenues, interest on investment. So all of the gross revenues, per the bond covenants, we're allowed to back out the cost for the fuel and the cost, our contributions to SRWA. That's our adjusted gross revenue.
Wait, that you're allowed to do what?
We from the gross revenues, we back out our costs for the fuel and energy
Okay.
and our contributions to SRWA, our 92.91% of SRWA's expenses. That's how we calculate the adjusted gross revenue, and that's the basis for the 10% transfer to the city. It's above any other expenses, any other activity throughout the month. So if we have unusually high expenses during the month, they're still entitled to their 10% of those adjusted gross revenues.
If I may.
Yes.
We do calculate the transfer to the city on a monthly basis, but it's really based on a quarterly calculation. Now, if at the end of the quarter we end up with a loss, then obviously we can withhold that transfer to the city and try to make it up in the subsequent quarter, or we wait until the end of the year to make it up. But as you can see here, for the quarter ending in December, we did have sufficient revenue to cover the 10% transfer to the city.
Okay. Well, you had it because you were not counting on the expenses. Like, you only had the money because not all of the expenses were included. Am I understanding this wrong? You had it because of the way that the bond ordinance is written. But I'm confused as to why
no, you're right. You're right.
There's a negative
that $7
number.
million that we were alluding to as far as the fuel adjustment that was used to offset the receivable for the FPEC, that is not included in the funds of flow or the flow of funds report, right? But it is included in the true statement of revenues and expenses. But we did have sufficient cash to cover the transfer at the end of the quarter.
Okay, thank you.
Monica, just a quick comment. When you talk about the city usage, can you give me an example of that?
So they are a customer of PUB for electric, water, and wastewater services. It's all, they have accounts for all of their facilities, all of their buildings, and they receive a bill from PUB like all the other customers do. So we take their 10% gross transfer, we back out those amounts that we billed them for their utility services, and then they get the rest in cash.
And I appreciate that clarification because I'm often asked, does the city pay for their energy? Does the city pay for this? And I've known that they have usage, and that's calculated in this.
Yes, so
in
they.
this formula here. Thank
So
you.
indirectly, they are paid.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else from any board members on this topic?
No, just as a comment, if their usage is reduced through whatever energy savings, that's more money that goes to them.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. A good incentive to be more efficient, energy efficient.
Okay, so that's a financial report. Next one is engineering and legal fees, monthly expenses.
Yes. The engineering fees, we had a year-to-date budget, we have an approved budget of $3,218,579. That is for both O&M and capital projects. We've had year-to-date spending through the end of December of $439,298. which leaves us a balance in the budget of $2,779,281.
Okay.
I'm sorry, where are you reading now?
It should be in tab 2B,
Can that be put up on the screen?
4B, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I was just having trouble opening it, but. Yeah. It's there, I just can't get it.
Okay,
It's a little bit small, but
can we make it smaller? I'm just kidding, it's good stuff. All right,
yeah, so there you see 3,218,579. This shows you the details by department and by the firms that they used. The top portion is the O&M expenses, and then the bottom, this section up here is O&M activities, and the bottom is capital activities, and so it's by departments and by firm. Shows the budget for both, the grand total for both. It shows the monthly activity, the year-to-date amount of 439, and I apologize, there is an error there. The formula didn't pick up. But the 32,275 and the 407,023 total the 439,298 year-to-date. That reduced from the budget amount leaves a 2,779,281 available.
And how do you feel about this?
I think we're doing very well against the budget so far.
Okay, thank you.
okay, that's the engineering fees, Monica. We're gonna,
The next is legal fees.
all right.
And on the legal fees, same thing, we have a budget on the O&M side and on the capital side. The total budget for legal fees for the year is $1,288,508. I don't know how to make it bigger in here, I'm sorry. So that's our budget, $1,288,508. Our year-to-date spending on legal fees is $194,643. And we have a balance of $1,093,865. I think you'll see December is very low activity, but I think it's a timing issue. We're missing one of the invoices from one of the firms for December. They were a little bit late in getting it to us. It'll catch up in January. You'll see that activity, and so it'll be a little bit more in line with the annual budget. But again, no concerns as far as the budget. We're well on track to be within budget before the end of the year, or by the end of the year.
You didn't tell the legal team that if their invoice was late, was that going to be voided? All right.
It wasn't late, it was just delayed.
Still a balance, and this balance is to operate with legal fees until the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
More than sufficient.
Any questions on that, Mr. Martinez or Carolyn? Representative Moore?
Well, what's the rest of, like, I have more sheets.
The other sheets are the 5-year history. That's just to give you an idea of how our expenses have been. We have significantly curtailed legal fees, legal spending over the last several years. So that just gives you a historical perspective of what legal fees spending was before over the last 5-year period.
Anything that I should pay particular attention to?
No, just the fact that we have made great strides in reducing those costs.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a good benefit to the utility that we've reduced those costs through the years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And to the ratepayer.
And to the ratepayers,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So reducing the legal fees and outside engineering expenses will translate to better price.
That just gives us more money to do some of the infrastructure needs that we have, meet some of the infrastructure needs that we have. And then my last presentation is on the City of Brownsville, the capital work orders. Again,
Actually, sorry, I have a question about
Yes, ma'am.
infrastructure needs, now that you mention it. It would be nice to see how we're doing spending that infrastructure budget.
That is part of our new presentation that we
Okay.
have, to show you our historical spending on the capital plans. And this year, we have a new breakdown that when we approved the capital plan this year, when you all approved it, We had some new categories that we outlined for the capital projects, and so we will be reporting on those going forward in the new format.
Thank you.
And again, this last item that I have is on the city, the capital work orders. At the top, that's a 5-year historical view of the types of work that we have done for the city. These were all unbilled services. And then the middle section shows the services that we've been billing the city for now. There's an outstanding total right now of $34,907. That work has not been done, won't be done until those invoices are paid. So there's no issues on those. And then the bottom is just a recap of the 10%, the gross transfer to the city. And so this shows you what their usage was by utility for electric, water, and wastewater, what their transfer was for each of those 3 utilities, plus their 10% of the Resaca fee that has been billed, and then what their cash transfer was, their gross cash transfer.
Thank you. Can I say something else, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to clarify where my questions come from when I ask, for example, about the 10% transfer, or when I ask about, in the past I've asked about these billed services and the bond ordinance that controls all this. And it is not because I don't think we should be helping to support the city. I believe we should be doing that, and we should be doing that well. I think that in Brownsville, we're very lucky to have BPUB that helps support the budget of the city. Not all cities are structured this way, so it is very nice. It helps pay for services that we all enjoy. At the same time, we do have to be mindful of, one, following the bond ordinance, not only in the transfer that we give to the city, but also, for example, here in the billed services. And, this really goes along with how we serve our ratepayers. We have a responsibility to both the ratepayers and the city. And if we are not careful of how we manage our finances or structure or everything that we do, including providing great customer service, then we're not going to have enough to help support the city. And we're not going to be providing our services as well. So that's where a lot of these questions come from. And I know that all of us here are very interested in having those things run really well. So thank you so much for providing us with all the information that we need to really understand these things in detail. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zamora, and I'm certain that we support your observations here on this as we review these reports. It's important. Thank you. All right, the next item, Ms. Gilbert.
Yes, the next item, we have Diane Solitaire with the procurement summary, and that is item number 4D.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. This is the General Manager's Procurement Authorization Report for the fourth quarter of 2023, October through December. The majority of the purchases that were approved by the General Manager were bid out, or they're sole sources. The total amount for water and wastewater administration was $810,910.38, and the electrical was $207,803, for a grand total amount for water, wastewater administration, electric of $1,018,713.38.
Any questions on that report and those numbers that were just presented to us by Ms. Solitaire?
Just if you guys can show it on the screen for the people that may be watching. We have the copy here, so you can see that.
I think I saw it there.
I do have a question.
Oh, sorry.
video.
So I do have a question on this authorization up to 100,000 by the general manager.
Yes.
So that's, she has the authority of making that decision without coming to the board up to
Yes,
100. Is that by project or by, how does that?
It depends if it's a water project, wastewater, or if it's just general administrative project. She has the authorization up to 100,000. So
Per project?
we will do our bidding process the majority of the time unless it's an emergency, but we will follow the bidding process, and if it comes out up to 100,000, she has the authorization to approve it.
And how about change orders and things like that?
The same.
The same?
It works the same way.
Okay. But if that project was below 100, and then with the change order it goes above 100,000, how does that
Then
work?
we will bring it to the
Okay.
board. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Now, this item, obviously, this is approved by board action.
Yes, there's a
The,
resolution that was signed, I think in 2012, maybe. I'm not sure the exact date it was
Ms.
signed.
Gilbert,
but-
can you provide us with that item when it was approved, just so the board can be aware of it and take a look at it, please?
Will do.
I can look through it, I have it here.
I do want to add right now, we are looking into the policy, the charter, and everything that has to do with the authorizations. Our legal local counsel is working in conjunction with Ms. Diane Solitaire to update to the existing changes, rules, policies, and procedures. My understanding, and Diane knows this policy more, it was in 2017 the last time, or when was it that it approved or changes?
Amended the procedures
Yes.
was, I think, in 17.
In 17. So we're trying to update some of that there, but we are following all state guidelines. There's a difference right now between the water and wastewater and administration section versus the electrical. You all are seeing a lot of inflationary things that are happening. We do follow procurement guidelines. We do quotes. We do have things, unless there are emergency repairs at that time, we have a discretion. And so you'll be seeing that policy come in the future through the policy committee.
Okay. The other thing, Ms. Gilbert, as Mr. Martinez made a comment, in the future, when we have these presentations, it would be good for the information to be broadcast here on the screen for people to see
Will do.
these numbers, and so they can follow along.
Okay. We'll have the
Anything else?
presenters work it.
Yeah. Anything else on this item, on the procurement summary from Ms. Solitaire?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on, Ms. Gilbert, to the quarterly report, investment report by Mr. Who's George? Santillan.
Good evening, Chair, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. My name is Jorge Santillan, Treasury and Accounting Manager. This is the December 31st quarterly investment report. This report was prepared in compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act and our investment policy. Looking at page number 1, at the table on page number 1, we have on the first column, we have the investment by asset class. I'm beginning with bank deposits at Wells Fargo. The market value shown on the third column was $9,840,058.02. This represented 4.97 of the portfolio shown in the third to the last column. The yield to maturity, the average yield to maturity was 3.82. Next, certificate of deposits, market value, 8,960,000. The percentage of portfolio, 4.53, and the yield to maturity, 5.51. Followed by investment pools, the market value, 133,009,658.63 cents. The percentage of portfolio, 67.17. The yield to maturity, 5.51. And lastly, the U.S. Treasury notes and bills, the market value, 46,222,578, represented 23.33 of the portfolio, and the yield to maturity, 5.38. The total market value, 198,032,294.65 cents. That's on the third column. And then the total yield to maturity on the portfolio, 5.40. On this page, we have the same information. This is the detail distribution by asset class. And on lines 1 and 2, those are the deposits at Wells Fargo. The first line, number 1, those are the investments. And you look at the last column, the yield to maturity was 5.20. And then the line number 2 was the checking account at Wells Fargo. And the last column was 1.65. Then on lines 4 through 42, the certificates of deposits. Looking at the last column, the yield to maturity, they range from 5.25 to 5.75. On page number 3, investment pools, lines 43 to 56. Again, looking at the yield to maturity, last column, the yield ranged from 5.36 to 5.89. And lastly, the U.S. Treasury notes and bills, columns 57 to 62. Yield range from 5.16 to 5.51. This is the rest of the information is supplementary information. And just a note, beginning with this quarter, we started using a new program, which one of the benefits is allow us to add more information, more detailed information, in case you want to analyze the report in more detail. And this concludes the presentation. Any questions?
Any questions on this item?
Are there recommended allocations?
I'm sorry?
For example, is this allocation consistent with what most other public utilities do?
If you look at page number 5, and these are the yield to maturity. Thus, the third to the last column, those are the yield to maturity earned in each of those months. For example, for October, 5.29, November, 5.39. The next column, that's the 3-month treasury. That's our benchmark.
I'm sorry.
So this is on page number 5, I'm sorry.
Yes, but where were you reading?
If I may, I believe the question was whether we have a policy in place to do the asset allocations. Is that correct?
Well, I guess, yeah. Do you
We
have
have a diversified portfolio.
And
So
what
we
is it
do.
based
We do
on?
have an investment policy that limits how we invest the funds in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act. And so there's certain limits that we can't exceed, like investment pools. We can't have more than 75% of the assets allocated to investment pools and so forth. So that's something that we do adhere to. Was that your question? I'm sorry.
Okay. So and then within investment pools, how do you decide where to put it?
Yeah, we monitor the rates on a daily basis, and we know that for example, the pools, they're very, very, very liquid. The yield is very high compared to other liquid investments. So it makes a sense to invest in investment pools. Number one, they're very liquid. That's number one. They're safe, they're relatively safe as well. Most of the entities, the cities, that's where they invest their monies, the idle monies in investment pools. I don't know if that answered the question.
So there's no policy for...
Yes, we have policies. Number one, we follow the state law. The state law says we can only invest in investment pools, for example, in certificates of deposit, in treasuries. So we need to stay within the state law. There's some investments we cannot invest on.
Right.
Then we have our internal investment policy. Also, our investment policy says, for example, as Mr. Perez mentioned, we can only invest up to 75% in investment pools, I believe 35% in certificates of deposits. So we also have internal guidelines that we need to follow as well.
Okay, and is this return what would be consistent with what other public utilities are doing?
Our benchmark is the 90-day Treasury bill, the one I was trying to mention here. Mm-hmm. That's the benchmark used across the entities with the municipalities. They follow that. Some of them follow the 3-month Treasury bill. Others, it can be 30-day. It's up to them. Normally, we follow the most common, which is the 90-day. And here, for example, we see that at the end of the December, we exceeded that 3-month treasury by almost 16 basis points. So that's our benchmark, one of the benchmarks. There's other benchmarks that are not as common, but this is the most common benchmark that we use.
Okay, so you consider as long as you are, just right above this one, then we're not losing money.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah, we're making a good return. Other entities, not everybody has this information available to review it. We do monitor other entities, and I can say that we are making good return on our investments.
Okay, so then, so it's 90-day treasury bond. This is the one, like how, like in the last few years, like you managed to stay.
Yes,
right?
most of the time we do exceed that benchmark. And there's some months, quarters, we don't exceed it because sometimes the markets go up or down. But most of the time, it's safe to say that, yeah, we do exceed that. And we have previously we used to have a graph that shows that information, and it's not here, but maybe perhaps next time we can add it so we can show that information going forward again.
That would be useful, like the last few years.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be nice to see trends over time for a lot of different things. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from George on this topic or this item before we move on to the annual report?
I guess it's a comment, but you can confirm it. But I think with state law and our policy, I mean, we're reducing the risk exposure. So you're having to work even with a reduced risk. So the expectation for return is not going to be significant, right?
Yeah.
So
And just to add that our policy says that number one, even the state law says that safety is our primary goal, safety. Then liquidity, make sure we have the funds available, and lastly, yield. So yield is not our primary. Yeah, it's important, but it's not the primary. Safety is number one.
all righty, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. We'll move on to the 2023 annual report. Ms. Gilbert, who's presenting on that?
Hi. So yes, on this item, we have a small update on the 2023 annual report. This isn't like an annual report. This is more of a PR type of report. This is why we have here. We have our annual financial statements, which is different. They usually go hand in hand. We've revised this reporting mechanism that was suspended for some time, and it hasn't been a while since we did. And the intent here is not to highlight every single thing that the utility does, but more on community focus that we've done. Every year we're going to focus on various different aspects, and in this case is the things that we have. And so right now it's still in the draft, but we want to give you a preview, and should be finalized by the end of the month probably. So.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Miguel Calles. I'm the Digital Information Platforms Manager and Project Lead for this annual report. As Ms. Gilbert mentioned, we're going to give you an update on the current status of the report. So the scope of the report spans from 2022 to 2023, and it's the, as she mentioned, is the purpose to showcase BPB's performance and strategy and vision, as well as give insight into our projects throughout the year and our outreach to the community, how we're connecting with the community, and an overview of our financials. This year's theme is Forward to a Brighter Future. As you know, the utility's gone through many changes, and so the report kind of highlights those changes and where we're headed, where we want to be. Some of the topics that you'll find in the report include a letter from the CEO addressing and highlighting a brief overview of the projects that we'll be covering in the report, as well as a letter from the board, and that's highlighting our new executive leadership as well. I think also you'll see in the report, it's important to note that we do provide a history of Brownsville, and we want to really further emphasize our legacy with the community, how long we've been providing service, and all the different milestones that we've achieved throughout that time. Again, the report will also highlight major projects throughout the year. In this case, you see we've got the water tank that was recently built in Southmost. We also want to connect with the community and reiterate the benefits of public power. So we really want to push those benefits to the community, and you'll see a spread on those benefits in the report as well. The report will also highlight customer-focused issues, so our PubCap panel, updates that we've done in terms of rates, anything related to the rates and things like that, as well as customer-related projects that we had our drive-through lanes updated recently as well. And then, as I mentioned, we'll also highlight some of our outreach efforts and how we connect with the community, all our outreach events, our programs, scholarship programs, and internship program as well, among others as well. And finally, we'll give a brief financial summary that highlights the financial status of the utility. And really that's the gist of the report. That's what it includes. We do have, as Ms. Gilbert mentioned, the report is currently being finalized and will be available on our website at the following link. And we also have planned a print edition for key stakeholders that will be distributed as well. Any questions?
No, we look forward to the report being finalized, and it'll be on the website.
Yes, we'll make sure to provide an update once it's available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to moving on, Ms. Gilbert, to the drought update.
So the next item is something that we're going to continue on reporting every month on the drought update. As I mentioned in my industry reports, is something that I'm watching very closely. I'm attending various different meetings. I will be attending the Region M planning meeting, and Mr. Garcia here has also attended some of the meetings that alongside with me on some of the things and what other people are doing. We just want to make sure, just because it rained today, that doesn't mean that we're out of a drought, and that's something that our watershed is really hurting, and you'll hear what we learned, the latest and greatest.
Thank you, Marilyn. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. So, yes, my name is Lupe Garcia. I am the Water Resources Administrator here for Brownsville PUB, and I'll be providing a drought update for you all this evening. So just want to go ahead and start off with the alarming number. Right now we are at 21.8% of our normal water conservation capacity at both Amistad and Falcon reservoirs combined. This is the U.S. share. So we want to show you this graph here. We have data back from 2021. We've been keeping track monthly based on the information that the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and IBWC provide these status numbers of how the reservoirs are currently doing. So based on the data here from 2021, you can see the graph or the line in yellow in 2022, the line in red, 2023 in green, and then for 2024 we're currently doing some projections, or just a projection based on what the last 3 years of data had done. So based on that information, you can see from March over to December, it has yellow dots. Those yellow dots are numbers that we generated, or was generated based on the information from those past 3 years on how the reservoirs have done in the past. So here you can see that in drought stage 3, that's 15%. We kind of have a projection that we'll probably anticipate to go into drought stage 3 by summer. So this is just information that we really want to provide to you all and also the general public. We've been providing this information out, to as many people as we can. But we want to present it here for you all as well. So earlier here in the board meeting, Ms. Gilbert.
Can I interrupt you? Sorry, can you go back to the graph?
Yes.
So last year around this time, was this also the expectation?
So we didn't do any projections.
This is the first year you do
This
projections?
is the first year we do projections for the year. With those projections, of course, we're using the last 3 years of data that we've had, that you can see here. And we've done these projections to kind of anticipate, right? These are not, there's many factors that go into play whenever you're creating a model, right? This is not a model, this is just a projection based on what the information that we have from the past 3 years. A lot of factors, whether we get rainfall in the reservoirs, rainfall from Mexico, Mexico releases water, there many factors play into a model that can get you into a finer detail as far as the water, what the water reservoirs and the water, the water in the reservoirs are doing. Right, so this one is just a projection for us to say, hey, by summer, we need to have everything ready, right, in order for us to already go into a drought stage 3 if the everything continues going to what was happening the past 3 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you, I mean, obviously, if you take this model and you project it out 2 more years, it goes to 0, right? Potentially.
Correct.
And so I think,
yes,
you know, we need to be thinking about a bigger strategy here, right? And
yes. So this is not a model.
Yeah.
And now I'll let me clarify that, and that this is not a model, right? This is a projection based on the last 3 years of data that we've had. Of course, we're taking into effect that we have. There's no big rain events, right, on top of the reservoirs. If that does happen, of course, this will we'll get new numbers that will reflect that specific outcome. Yes.
How do we get a model estimate?
So you should, right now, the International Boundary Water Commission, they're currently working on a model, and this is a model for the entire Rio Grande watershed, both from the Mexican parties, from IBWC, and the United States party for IBWC are currently working on this model. With this in mind, what they're specifically looking for is more of how the water gets from point A to point B from the sky, once the runoff and all of that is taken into play. But as far as these projections, we don't currently have the capability ourselves, but federal parties are currently working on this because the watershed for the Rio Grande is an international watershed. So it's not just the information that we have from the United States, we also need to have that information from Mexico. So, like I mentioned, IBWC, International Water Boundary Commission, they're currently working on that, a model to reflect as such. I believe in the last meeting, they didn't have a specific date on when they're going to be having this out. I know they've been working on this model since the last year.
Since last year?
Yes. Yeah, and model
Late
takes
last year,
a model takes a lot of information and a lot of hands to develop. Yes.
Another question. So this is the percent of what?
These are the percentiles that are the U.S. share of water that is in the Amistad and Falcon reservoirs. So what they do is both Mexico and the United States, we both use these 2 reservoirs in order for us to release water. So there's a certain share of water that belongs to the United States and some that belongs to Mexico. So these numbers that you're looking right now, these are the percentages that currently the reservoirs are at capacity, right? So as a whole, and this is what the water that belongs to the United States.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so think of a pool, right? If the pool is at halfway, right, or for halfway, right, the United States owns 52% of that. Think of that in a whole, right, as a whole watershed. The United States owns 52%, and Mexico owns the other 48%. All right. So once, in this case, our share, it's reflected here. That's how much water we're able to take out from the reservoirs as far as a percent. And
so it's still a percent.
And later in the presentation, you'll actually be able to see where we're currently at. And that's there's these graphs that were presented by IBWC, and you'll be able to see, okay, where we're currently at in those levels. And that's further down in the presentations for you to be able to get a better visual of, well, how are the reservoirs right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, and Ms. Gilbert mentioned that we did attend an IBWC meeting last week on Thursday. With this meeting, they did provide some information for the stakeholders. And with Mexico, they did provide some information with Mexico releases. I don't know if you remember a couple of months back, we presented on that specific issue. And with that, right now, the obligation per year for them to be able to provide water to the United States based on the treaty that we have is 350 acre-feet per year, okay, as it's written. Right now, they've only done, we're in the 4th year of the 5-year cycle, and they've only given us, or transferred water to us only for the amount of 378,109. Okay, so right now they are missing about 750,000 acre-feet for them to be able to transfer to the United States. Now, Mexico currently, they are releasing water from the Amistad Reservoir. So Amistad Reservoir is over by Eagle Pass area. So that's up north, and the Falcon, of course, is by the Laredo area. So they're releasing water from the Amistad. They're lowering the level in Amistad, and they're releasing that water going over to the Falcon Reservoir. What they're currently doing this for is they're getting ready for their agricultural season over there in Mexico. So that's why they're releasing quite a bit of water. We'll be seeing the numbers kind of drop on the Amistad Reservoir because of that. That water, we don't own it. That's owned by Mexico. Okay. But we just wanted to provide that update to you all. Like I mentioned, this is a graph. Mexico, this black line right here, this is the amount of water that Mexico has provided to the United States. We are currently in the 4-year cycle, and that cycle goes from October to October. Okay. So within this year, this is where they should be at, over on the top. Of course, they're down here. Now, there's many factors that IBWC is currently working on this specific issues and working on a specific minute in order for them to be able to get better water deliveries to the United States. Okay, so this here is the Amistad Dam at Del Rio. So the Amistad Dam, if you can see in red where it says now, you can see right here where it says now. So Amistad Dam is at 19% of capacity, so it's just above the 16. With that 19% at Amistad, and there was a question, I believe, Dr. Zamora, that you requested some information in regards to at what percentage we're not allowed to get water past the dams.
Right. What
yeah.
does it mean? What does
so
percentage mean?
So right now, there's what they call penstock, the lowest portion where we're able to get water from the reservoirs. That's called penstock. If you can see, if you can see right here, right, that's the lowest level. So there's two penstocks. There's a Mexican penstock and the U.S. penstock. The Mexican penstock is at 1%, and the U.S. penstock is at 0%. Currently, the U.S. penstock is not operable. So instead of us, we'll have to go all the way to 0 in order for us to still be able to get some water. Well, that's not the case right now. That's inoperable, and they're currently working on a solution to get that back up and going. So our percentile that we're currently looking for Amistad Reservoir is 1%. If Amistad goes to 1%, then at that point we won't be able to have any water be able to be released from the lowest level
So why
of
doesn't it
Amistad.
work?
Excuse me?
Why doesn't it work?
I guess mechanical issues that IBWC was able to discover for that specific infrastructure on the reservoir.
So it was discovered recently.
It was discovered. I don't have the specific date that it was discovered, but I know it was within the last couple of months.
So let me interject. Right now, IBWC has committed to next year to repair the U.S. penstock. They are working with Mexico to utilize releases from the Mexican penstock. But the difference here is that the Mexican penstock doesn't have the flow of the water that can be released, and the U.S. penstock has a greater flow, and it also at a lower elevation. So it's important to fix the U.S. penstock because that means you can draw water at a lower elevation than the U.S. penstock. And they've known about this for a while, and they're aware of it. It's just that we have not hit these critical levels since 1998, and so now it's a lot more urgent need to repair. And they're addressing the issues.
How fast can it be repaired?
A year.
And who pays for this repair?
IBWC. We do not own any of this. This is where we store our water, and the water is by the water master. There's a U.S. counterpart and a Mexican counterpart. We are governed by a 1944 treaty. This is something that everybody tells us based on what is the conservation level behind is what our allocations gives our utility. This is one of the few utilities as far as municipalities that have ownership and water rights, and our water rights dictate the amount of water we can. Every year, the farming community has water rights, the municipal, there's different classes and the prioritization levels of the different water rights. We can come back and give you a presentation on water rights and what that means at a subsequent meeting our water supply department does.
Thank you, Brownlee.
Yeah, presentation or workshop as we get close to stage 3, right? Which we're projecting with our numbers. I'm sure. I mean, we need to be kind of a little bit more aware, right, to support and help, and also communicate to the community and be able to answer any questions they may have. So yeah, just consider that. Not urgent, but in the next few months, some workshop for us to get us all up to speed on the details.
Okay.
I certainly agree with what Mr. Martinez just mentioned, and there is somewhat of a sense of urgency. I know the mayor is collaborating with Ms. Gilbert. This is a serious topic. Perhaps the general public right now may not know how serious it is. But barring a rainstorm or a rain episode, this thing could get pretty dire. But this is it's good information. And I know the mayors are very interested, and the city is going to be taking some steps to address this as well.
Yes, thank you, board members. So I did mention, kind of what's the situation right now going on with the Amistad Dam, but we also have one more dam that we also need to take a look at, right? And that's Falcon Dam. Currently, Falcon Dam is that one is at 19%, and that's the current level that it's currently at. Now, like I mentioned, Mexico is diverting or releasing water from the Amistad, so that one's going to get lower, but the Falcon Dam is going to get a little bit higher, right? So they're preparing for their agricultural timeline. Now, with that in mind, the United States is also preparing for their agricultural, what they call peak season, right? Peak season, we're a big agricultural producing valley here in Deep South Texas, and we rely all the farmers rely on water from the Rio Grande River. Ms. Gilbert did mention that we are a municipality, so we have priority water, right? The water is going to go priority to the municipal, those that have municipal accounts, and then after that it's going to go below us. It will be anything with agricultural, right? And that's how the water rights get distributed. So with Falcon Dam, one of the things that does happen here is that it is a shallower dam. So we don't have it's not deep, it's a shallower dam. And what happens here is right before we go into the dead pool, you see this blue line right here in the bottom. Okay, and below that is the dead pool, which is the lowest you can go, and that's at 0%. So we're able to divert water out at 0% from Falcon, up to that point. Below that, we cannot. There's no way to get water over. Now, one of the things that we also need to keep in mind is, even it goes to 0%, that is where the water is coming out. But when you and we can go over this, whenever we do another meeting with you all, right, to provide this information. But one of the things is, when we get below 6%, there's not a lot of water pressure for all of that water to be able to be pushed out. For all the municipalities that are requesting water at the same time, and you're not going to have that big push of water just because the level is really low behind the dam. And that's a hydrologic factor that comes into play when it comes to water pressure and water being released.
So what does that mean? So what does that mean? What does that mean for us?
That we need to keep a even closer eye on, and this is something that the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and IBWC are currently looking. Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, they experienced this issue already back in March of 2023. It did affect us momentarily, and I mean momentarily, meaning that Falcon Dam was really low. Mexico was getting water out from their dam. When we opened our area, there wasn't a lot of flow for us to be able to meet the demands for the United States. They quickly found out, and with communication with Mexico, they were able to adjust that for us to be able to get water for the United States as we need it. And that was something, that's why I mentioned, once it gets below 6%, then it's a little bit more challenging for us to be able to get all of the water that all the municipalities need to get all at the same time. So that's the history behind my comments for that one.
Thank you. I really appreciate this bottom line. It's very clear. No, I do. I appreciate clear communication to us, because you are in the trenches all the time, and we get this, this snapshot. So we really need you to, give us the takeaway, give us what is important.
Yes.
This might be better for the workshop that we will have, but I am very interested in seeing what the worst case scenario is. If this, if what we anticipate does happen, what does it look like? What is the worst case scenario? When do we run out of water? Maybe we don't.
So one of the things that's this utility has taken a very active role in conserving. We had a meeting right before with the mayor, and that's when we called Stage 3 and talking about the projections and what we were discussing here for this meeting. And we are in a lot better shape than a lot of the other one. We have water because we have SRWA, but that doesn't mean it's the full needs of the whole system. What that means is right now we've been conserving approximately 30% of our needs from the water, where others have not made that investment, and that's your predecessors made those recommendations for us to build on SRWA. You heard that we have a 92% ownership of SRWA along with the combined partners. We have the ability to produce more water. We have been working on optimization studies through the other board that your other colleague, Dr. Holman, sits on, and we have completed an actual study for optimizing the amount of water we can bring out of there, as well as doubling the amount of water. The whole city of water needs is 21 MGDs. We produce 7.5 MGDs, so 1/3 of daily. We can come back with another presentation and some of it and summarize the takeaways. Is that yes, we're going to have to curtail. Yes, we're going to have to take our every single water drop counts. I have been starting to meet myself with other people in the community. I met with the TSC president and advised, and they're very interested in what investments can they do also to reduce their consumption as well. There's some other awareness and things and campaigns that we're doing, and I believe there might be some other slides that address some of that. Thank you.
Yeah, so moving forward with the bottom line, just summarizing pretty much the entire presentation here. One of the things is for us to not anticipate any significant releases from Mexico. They're in the same boat as we are in regards to water. Another thing is, like I mentioned,
they owe a lot of water, so they're probably in a worse situation, right?
Yes, correct. Another factor is, like I mentioned, right now is currently with farming, and it's called peak season, which begins from February into March, in which they're releasing a little bit more water in order for them to be able to get their crops started for the spring season. Another item is we did get a notification from the National Weather Service, and they did do a prediction in regards to our, they do quarterly predictions. So from February to April period, they did mention that they're predicting less than normal rainfall for the seasons. So that's definitely going to affect the amount of water that's going back into the system, right? And when we don't have those showers on top of those reservoirs or the watershed. And then for drought stage 3, we do have a projection for entering into for the summer of this year. Now, what are we currently doing in order to, provide this information out to the public? We had been this past in January, every Friday, January the 12th, 19th, the 26th. We did spend some time over at the Gladys Porter Zoo. We provided information to the general public that was going into the zoo. With that, in having to do with drought information and also tips for them to be able to conserve water. Another outreach that we did was the career day at Russell Elementary. We went to the elementary. We provided information to all the kids in regards to water conservation. We provided them a little kind of a workbook with all the information having to do with drought and also for them to be able to conserve water so they can take it home to their parents and, they can distribute out that information as such. Another one that we did, and this one was for a career day at Perez Elementary, and the PR team, they went to that meeting or to that career day, and they provided information also about water conservation to the students. We went to Southmost Elementary, but Southmost Elementary, we provided information with the Resaca department for the dredging. We're still promoting that information out to the general public in regards to the Resaca dredging. Okay. We did the Scout Government's Day. This picture right here that you can see, that's with the Scouts. We took them out to actually right here in the back. And we provided them information in regards to what we're doing with the dredging and also about water conservation and drought stages as well. And the Girls' Night Out bingo, our PR team, they did go out to that event, and they provided information in regards to drought. And as well as the Wild Tales at Gladys Porter Zoo event that they had. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
I have a
Any
quick question.
questions? Yes.
I know you've met with TSC, but have you met with the other key account, our customers that are large users to see how they can help conserve? And I think that's where we're going to have a lot of impact.
Yeah, I know our key accounts department is currently providing that information out to all of our key accounts and businesses. And yeah,
And John, I mentioned this to Ms. Gilbert even 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago about Brownsville Independent School District that operates 50 campuses, probably one of our larger.
Just as a reminder, I was looking for our key accounts manager, Johnny Minas, and he did mention to me that he was actually doing an event at BISD tonight, and I think he was meeting with the parent association, BTOs, and he was also telling me that he was working on scheduling on the BISD trustees meetings to more awareness, and it's just like that. Just the key accounts is what we're meeting. They're meeting, or we say we, as in all of our staff, is on this, and whenever opportunity we have, we talk about drought.
And Marilyn, I think it might be important for the executive team to make contact with the superintendent.
Yes, I have requested that meeting through our key accounts, and they're in the process of scheduling with the interim, Mr. Chavez,
Yeah,
Dr.
I think
Chavez.
at this point they need to really hear it from the top team.
Yeah, I've spoken with Dr. Chavez and most of the board about this, so that they are, they know it's coming, that this conversation is going to happen.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thank you. All right, Lupe, thank you for a very informative report. A lot of
Thank you so
information.
much.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Gilbert, we're going to move on to item number 5, consideration approval of the annual comprehensive financial report for the period ending September 30, 2023. Mr. Pettis?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So the firm of Burton McCumber and Longoria has completed BPUB's fiscal year 2023 year-end audit. In their opinion, the financial statements were presented fairly in all material aspects in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards, earning BPUB an unmodified opinion, in essence, a clean opinion. The results of the audit were presented to the Finance Committee on February 7, 2024. Here with us today is Mr. Ben Peña, partner with BML, to present their letter of governance, their letter to governance, and present BPUB's fiscal year 2023 audited annual comprehensive financial report. We did include a hard copy of the governance letter in front of you, and so at this point we'll have Mr. Peña come up.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Ben Peña with Burton McCumber and Longoria. I'm responsible for your financial statement audit in accordance with governmental auditing standards. There are certain communications that we as auditors are required to make to the Board of Governments regarding these financial statements. So when you read them, you kind of have a background of what's in them. The audit team, we had a staff of about 5, and Jose Diaz was my manager, and I was a partner in charge. They're there on your screen so that you can see where we are and our contact information in case you have any questions or concerns. And so with respect to communications to governments, you look at the accounting policies. Accounting policies within the financial statements are what kind of govern the way you account for certain things. In the current year, when there's policy changes within those financials, and those are in your footnotes, you'll see that GASB 96, the GASB is a governing body that sets accounting standards on how you should account for things. And then in their infinite wisdom, they're constantly changing the requirements for governance, which we as auditors kind of snicker at because they find ways to just move things around with those financial statements and make it a little bit of a headache for us. Nonetheless, in the current year, GASB 96 is a subscription-based information technology agreements. And basically all that accounts for your subscription agreements, your technology agreements, they're similar to leases. And you'll see there on the far right the effect of those subscription agreements that affect your financial statement was $138,000. Something certainly that's very minor and not too significant. One of the items that we also are required to convey to the Board of Governance when you read those financial statements are estimates. And estimates are kind of exactly what they are. They're subjective in nature. They require certain assumptions. And so when you're looking at what, like the allowance for doubtful accounts, you look at a trend over the historic collection rates of your billings. Not all billings are 100% collectible within the financial statement, so you all will have to provide an allowance for that collectability. That allowance is an estimate, and so it may not come to fruition, but 9 times out of 10 it will, because we've got the historical data to prove that. And so as auditors, we kind of look at the methodology used in coming up with those allowances. Same thing with depreciation. We look at the methodologies used for determining the cost allocation over time of the estimated useful lives of capital assets and so forth. And then you've got estimated costs on capital contributions, self-insurance claims, and net pension and OPEB liability and related deferrals. And those are actual, I have trouble with that word, actuarially determined by a pension analyst. And so those are significant estimates. So when you look at your financial statements, just keep those in mind, that those are not hard numbers. So One of the things that we also are required to disclose to you all as governments are difficulties encountered within the audit. There were none. There were no uncorrected misstatements, and there were no disagreements with management with respect to any of the accounting, the treatment of any accounting issues. So we're glad to report that there were no disagreements. Also, there were no reportable financial statement findings, such as breaches, major breaches of internal control policies and what have you. And so those are the standard communications to you all. New in those financial statements this year is the Single Audit Act. Under Title II of the U.S. Federal Regulations, Part 22, it's a uniform guidance, which is the audit of your federal awards. It's been a while since the PUB had any federal awards, but this year we expended about $2.3 million in federal awards, and you'll see the breakdown there. They were both in the U.S. Department of Treasury, one through the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and the other through the City of Brownsville, which is the ARPA Act, and the Restore Act grant for the Town Resaca watershed. Those expenditures were 1.4, and on the ARPA water waste improvements with almost $1 million. So what do we audit? In a federal awards audit, it's all compliance driven, and so we actually have to test your internal controls over financial reporting, as well as your internal controls over compliance. Our job is not only to test compliance, but to actually audit whether there's an internal control over that compliance. So we test that your control is being administered to ensure that compliance is taking place. So across the board at the bottom, you'll see that not only are we auditing your internal controls over financial reporting, which includes your procurement policies, your standard purchasing, POs, approvals, and what have you, even board approvals on expenditures, but also the internal controls over the compliance requirements. And those compliance requirements are with respect to specific to the federal awards. And you'll have certain allowable costs within those grants, activities allowed, cost management procedures, reporting requirements, and special audit compliance requirements that each individual program may have. We're happy to report that there were no findings in any of the grants. In summary, as you look at the reports, you will find three opinions. The first one is in the financial section. As Mike was mentioning, we did have an unmodified clean opinion on the financial statements with respect to the financial position of the public utilities boards in the city of Brownsville. That's a clean opinion. I know unmodified sounds kind of weird, kind of opposite of what you're expecting, but that is the terminology that they use in the auditing world. Under Yellow Book standards, government auditing standards, that is what we call the GAS report. And it talks about internal controls over financial reporting and compliance with certain provision laws, regulation, contracts, and grant agreements, non-compliance with which could have a direct and material effect on the financial statements. And so there were no findings there as well. And the third and final opinion that you will see within the report, you'll see it way at the back under the compliance section. It is our single audit report on compliance on each of the major programs, which were the two. And there were no findings as well. At this time, if you have any questions, I won't bore you with the numbers on the financial statements unless you have any specific questions related to that, but that is my presentation.
Any questions from the board members?
Are there any programs that were excluded? Are there any, like, did you exclude anything under a certain dollar value?
I'm sorry?
Like, were there any programs that were excluded?
No. The Yellow Book and the uniform guidance has specific requirements on how to test those grants and what's included versus what's not included. Generally, you have smaller programs that get excluded because they're either small, don't meet the threshold. a program that is over $750,000 in a first year will almost likely be picked. In this case, the ARPA grant is a must-select grant that we have to test anyway. So we ended up in the position where we had to test both of them. So we tested 100% of all your federal expended awards.
Wait, but this opinion is not just for those programs.
It's for both, yes.
But it's like, I thought it was overall, the whole audit.
Okay, so the financial statements are your financial statements. And then if you look at page, I don't know if you have the report with you. Way at the back, you'll see the compliance section.
They do have the copy of the report, and
Yes. It's on page 98. You'll see our letterhead at the top.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the gas report. That's the internal control over financial reporting. That's overall entity-wide. On the following page, on page 100, is the one that I think you're asking about. And those are independent auditors report on compliance for each major program and on internal controls over compliance required by the uniform guidance. So if you look at, and that is a clean opinion, if you look at page 103, that's the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and that is what we're opining on those two programs. So we tested both of them for compliance. So you'll see that 2.3 million there for both grants, both from the Department of Treasury.
Thank you.
Mr. Pena, thank you. Any other questions? I know I listened to this presentation at the subcommittee with Mr. Sampaio, and of course he was very impressed, and a lot of credit goes to Ms. Gilbert and her team, Mike Bettis, and all the staff. It certainly appears that it's a very good report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Us too, we'd also like to thank Mike and Monica and Tricia. Tricia actually puts the report together. I will say this, treasure the people that prepare your annual comprehensive financial report, because this is very comprehensive and there's a lot of hours that go into preparing this. And so, very good job.
We certainly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Those comments. Thank
Mr.
you,
Chair,
Pena.
this is an action item. So at this point, BPB staff recommends approving the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2023.
Okay, it's an action item. We've had some discussion, comment. Any motions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and second by Dr. Samoto. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. All those against? There's nobody against because no one else is here. All right, that item passes. Thank you, Mike. The next one is number 6, consideration of possible action on the replacement of the investment advisor for the other post-employment benefits trust administered by Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So on August the 8th of 2022, the BPB board approved the establishment of an irrevocable other post-employment benefits trust with an initial contribution of $13,306,413 and directed staff to initiate the request for proposal process for a plan administrator. After doing that, on November 14, 2022, the BPB board approved the selection of Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS, as a plan administrator for the OPEB trust, utilizing Vanguard Investments as the investment advisor. Just 2 weeks ago, we were advised or notified that Mercer Investments has entered into an agreement to acquire Vanguard. The purchase is expected to be finalized by April 1st of 2024. Mercer Investments has notified that they do not maintain a governmental plant presence, and has notified PARS that it will not be able to provide investment advisory services for BPB's trust following the transition. This will require BPUB to have an alternate investment advisor in place by April 1st of 2024. PARS did provide a solution. They did collaborate with U.S. Bank and its wholly owned subsidiary, PFM Asset Management, to provide an investment solution designed to maintain the same type of investment advisory services that BPB currently receives from Vanguard. Through this solution, BPB can continue to use the same investment allocation strategy currently in place, utilize a similar low-cost passively managed index-based approach. Third, benefit from the competitive investment fee structure that integrates trustee and investment management fees. And fourth, receive economies of scale pricing that can lower overall fees as additional contributions to the program are made for other participating PARS agencies. So a presentation on the status of the OPEB Trust was presented to the Finance Committee on February 7th, 2024. We also advised the Finance Committee of the need to replace the investment manager for the OPEB Trust. And so at their guidance, at their request, we did include this agenda item for board approval. We also included a comparison of the existing and new investment advisory fees, a comparison of the investment strategies, a comparison of investment returns, and a brochure filed by a PFM Asset Management with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So this can provide some additional information to make a recommendation or approve the new PFM. We can see that the PFM fees are at 12.61 basis points compared to Vanguard at 13.14 basis points. So they are a little cheaper. Since PFM is a subsidiary of U.S. Bank, which is the trustee, they have waived those directed trustee fees. So the total cost under PFM would be just at about $18,259. That's the estimate for the whole year. Now PFM will offer a comparable investment strategy as offered by Vanguard. So when we initially filed the application, we were given 4 different plans that we could choose from, right? And so we ended up with the plan that offered a balanced approach. We didn't want to be too aggressive, so we didn't select the growth, and we didn't want to be too conservative. And we looked at what TMRS was doing, and so it's pretty much the same plan, a balanced approach with 60% equity and at 40% fixed income. And so now we can see also that those PFM does offer comparable investment strategies offered by Vanguard. The rate of returns between the two investment strategies are also very comparable. As you can see in the attachments in there, the returns for the first for 1 year and 3 years, PFM is actually a little higher than Vanguard, but when you look at the 5-year, Vanguard is a little bit higher as far as the long-term returns than PFM. Now, PFM is a large, reputable investment advisory firm with $216.9 billion in assets under management and advisement. And this is as of September 30, 2023. And the firm does bring 43 years of experience. So in order to seamlessly transition investment advisory services to PFM by April 1st, all required documents should be executed by no later than March 1 of 2024. So considering that March 1st is 2 weeks away, my recommendation is that BPB accept the proposed investment solution and transition to PFM. We have been assured that we can transition to any other investment advisor at any time. So we can, so if we're not satisfied with this investment manager, we can initiate the RFP process to replace PFM. So any questions? No? So I'll just go ahead and read out the recommendation. So the recommendation, BPB staff recommends approval of an amended adoption agreement for the OPEB Trust to transition the investment approach to a discretionary investment approach with investment advisory services provided by U.S. Bank, PFMAM, effective April 1, 2024.
Just for the record, so that board members will know, I believe Mr. Sampaio and I sat on this meeting. We agree with Mr. Bettis on this recommendation moving forward. So the action item is before us. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I guess one quick question. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward. Um, the options that you mentioned, the four options, just from my understanding, that those were options within the U.S. Bank.
Within the investment advisory, yeah, the
Yes.
trust.
Yep, within them. Okay. And as far as the last part that you mentioned, as far as going out for,
An RFP,
RFPs
if we're
later,
not satisfied with PPM.
is that
RFP.
something that is there like a trigger for you? Is there I mean, what would trigger that?
Well, I mean, if
concern
we
such
if we see that I guess the funds are not doing very well, and we're not getting very much collaboration from PFM, then at that point that would be a signal for us to say, okay, we're not satisfied with the services that are being provided, and we can start the process to look for someone else.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay to move forward, so I'll motion to approve. I would just add that it would be good if you guys determine a trigger.
We will.
so that
What
you
we can do is
monitor
we
and-
can circle back with the finance committee in 6 months and report back and see how the trust is doing and how the investment advisor is performing, and then get guidance from the finance committee at that point.
Yeah.
And Mr. Martinez, an excellent point that we discussed here with Mr. Pettis in the subcommittee. So this gives us an opportunity to be covered and move because Vanguard's pulling out, and we'll be covered to continue to have somebody represent us, but with an opportunity if we need to go out for an RFP. So.
Only if needed, from my view.
Exactly.
Only if needed.
Again,
then,
we'll circle back with the finance
yeah.
committee, and if everything is going great, that's what we're going to be reporting, and we can continue with PFM.
All right, so we do have a motion from Mr. Martinez to approve this item. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Dr. Samot. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those against? Well, there's no one else here, so the motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Pettis, on that. That's the last item before we go into closed meeting. I'd like to read the following. Meeting with board's counsel for advice about contemplated and pending court and administrative litigation and on matters in which the duty of the attorney under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct conflict with Chapter 551, Section 551.071. Discussion and consultation with board counsel of any contemplated and pending litigation involving Brownsville Public Utilities Board, Section 551.071. Presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchased power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel purchase energy and marketing charge, Section 551.086. Those are the items that we are going to take into executive. Do I have a motion to go into closed meeting?
I make a motion.
We have a motion by
Second.
Dr. Zamora, second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor of going into closed meeting, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. At this time, we're going into a closed session. Okay, we are back from executive session. It is 7:43. But we have no items to consider from closed meeting. At this time, I will ask my fellow board members, any discussion and a request for future agenda items? With that? Major?
Yes, with it.
Okay, we have no request for future agenda items.
Wait, the drought was one,
Well,
the workshop, and then there was also a presentation by Mr. Dombrowski about
What?
the rates, right?
I believe those items have been noted by administration for future.
Yes, we will bring back the presentation that was presented at the Finance Committee for the full board on the regulatory items that discusses the regulatory environment
Okay. That's
and the drought
and
workshop.
the drought. That's noted, Dr. Samoda. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn, or we can just continue. I have a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
A motion, a second.
I second.
Dr. Samoda seconds the motion to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion pass. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Daisy, you're